Boy gave his blanket to a dying alien girl. Then 100 warriors appeared by his barn. The night was quiet on the edge of human space. A small farming colony rested under a sky filled with stars. Most people were asleep, trusting the darkness the way farmers always did. Nothing ever happened out here. No pirates, no wars, just soil, animals, and long days of work. Near one old wooden barn lived a boy named Eli Carter. Eli was 12 years old, thin, curious, and kind in a way that did not come from rules but from habit. He helped his parents every day, feeding animals, fixing fences, and carrying water when machines failed. Life was simple but not easy. That night Eli could not sleep. The wind was colder than usual. It rattled the barn doors and made the animals restless. Eli pulled his blanket tighter around himself, staring at the ceiling. Then he heard it, a sound unlike thunder. A deep crack of the sky itself. Eli sat up. The light came next, blue and white, bright enough to shine through the window. The ground shook for a moment, then went still. Silence returned, heavy and strange. Eli's heart raced. His first thought was that something had fallen from orbit. It happened sometimes. Old satellites, broken cargo pods. His father always said to stay away from crash sites, but something felt different. Eli slipped out of bed, pulled on his boots, and grabbed a flashlight. He paused at the door, listening. His parents were still asleep. The house was quiet. He opened the door and stepped into the cold. The light had fallen beyond the fields near the far fence. Eli walked slowly, breath visible in the air. The stars above were calm again, as if nothing had happened. As he neared the barn, he heard a sound, a weak sound, not mechanical, not animal, a soft, broken breathing. Eli stopped. Fear told him to run back to the house. But curiosity and something else he could not name pulled him forward. Behind the barn, near a broken crate of old tools, lay a shape. At first, Eli thought it was an animal. Then the flashlight beam shook and he realized the truth. It was a girl, but not human. Her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight on water. Long silver-blue hair was tangled and dirty. Her clothes were torn, made of a material Eli had never seen. One of her legs was bent at a painful angle and dark marks covered her side. She was dying. Eli froze. He had learned about aliens in school. Everyone had. Humanity was not alone anymore, and some species were friendly, others distant. A few were dangerous. The rules were clear: report alien contact immediately. But this girl was not standing. She was not armed. She was barely breathing. The cold wind touched her skin and she shivered. Eli noticed something else. Her chest glowed faintly, blinking slowly like a fading light. A life signal, he thought, though he did not know why. She opened her eyes. They were large and dark, filled with pain and fear. She tried to move and failed. A weak sound escaped her throat. It was not a word, but Eli understood it anyway. Help. His hands trembled. I won't hurt you, Eli whispered, even though he was not sure she could understand. The girl's eyes stayed on him. She did not reach for him. She did not attack. She just lay there, freezing. Eli looked at the sky, at the barn, at the dark fields. No one else was coming. If he ran now, she would be dead by morning. He made a choice. Eli ran back to the house, heart pounding. He did not wake his parents. He grabbed his favorite blanket, thick and warm, patched in places where it had torn over the years. It smelled like home. He returned to the barn and knelt beside her. Slowly, carefully, he wrapped the blanket around her shoulders and body. The glow on her chest flickered, but did not fade. Her breathing slowed, became steadier. The girl looked at the blanket, then at Eli. Her hand lifted weakly and touched the fabric as if it were something rare. Eli sat beside her, shielding her from the wind. "I don't know who you are," he said softly, "but you don't deserve to die alone." The girl closed her eyes. Minutes passed, then hours. Eli stayed awake, holding the flashlight, listening to her breathe. Strange symbols began to glow across her skin, moving like living ink. Eli did not touch them. He just watched. Far above the planet, something else was watching too. Across deep space, a signal pulsed. Weak. Damaged but alive. In a distant system, alarms sounded aboard a massive alien vessel. Warriors turned in shock as ancient symbols flashed across their screens. The air lives, but she is not alone. Sensors showed something impossible. A primitive species. Low technology. No weapons present. And yet, her life signs were stabilizing. Not because of machines, because someone had given her warmth. Back at the barn, the girl's eyes opened again. She looked at Eli, then slowly raised her hand and placed it over her heart. Her fingers glowed softly. It was a gesture of thanks. Eli smiled, unsure why tears filled his eyes. "You're safe here," he said. The girl's glow dimmed as sleep took her. Eli leaned back against the barn wall, wrapped partly in the same blanket, staring at the stars. He had no idea that his small act would change everything. He did not know that warriors were already moving. He did not know that by morning, the galaxy would learn something new about humans. All he knew was this: a stranger had needed help. And he had helped. Morning came slowly to the farm. The sky turned pale blue and frost covered the fields like thin glass. Birds began to sing, unaware that something important had happened during the night. Eli woke with a stiff neck and tired eyes. He had slept sitting against the barn wall. For a moment he forgot everything. Then he looked beside him. The alien girl was gone. The blanket lay folded carefully where she had been, clean, warm, untouched by dirt. Eli stood up quickly, heart racing. He checked behind the barn, the tool crates, the tall grass near the fence. There were marks in the soil, light footprints, glowing faintly before fading away. "She left," Eli whispered. He did not know whether to feel relieved or sad. Before he could think more, a soft sound came from the ground. Near the folded blanket rested a small metal object, smooth and dark, shaped like a flat stone. Strange symbols pulsed across its surface. Eli did not touch it. He only stared. Something told him this was not a gift by accident. Far beyond the farm, deep in space, far beyond human maps, a massive fleet moved in silence. The ships were dark and sharp-edged, built for war, but they did not fire their engines loudly. They moved like hunters who already knew where their prey was. Inside the largest ship stood Commander Vaelthra, a warrior whose armor bore marks of 100 battles. His eyes were fixed on the glowing display before him. "The air's condition?" he asked. A technician bowed. "Stable, her wounds are healing faster than expected." Vaelthra's hands clenched. "That should not be possible," he said, "not without medical chambers." Another warrior spoke carefully. "She was aided, Commander, by a local." The display shifted. Images appeared: a small farm, an old barn, a human child wrapped in a blanket. Silence filled the command chamber. Vaelthra stared. "A child?" he asked slowly. "Yes. No weapons detected, no advanced technology, only warmth." The commander closed his eyes. Among his people, strength ruled all things. Weakness was failure, mercy was rare, but debt was sacred. "To save a life," Vaelthra said, "is to claim our honor." The fleet changed course. The girl who walked away. The alien girl moved through the forest beyond the farm, each step painful but steady. Her wounds were closing, slowly knitting together under her skin. She touched the blanket folded over her arm. Warmth. Not just heat, but something deeper. Something she had not felt since childhood. She remembered the boy's eyes, afraid but kind. No demands, no questions, just help. Among her people, mercy was given only to the strong, yet this small human had given it freely. She stopped and activated a communicator embedded in her wrist. "I live," she said softly. A voice answered at once, filled with controlled emotion. "You should not, and yet you do." "There is a debt," she said. "A great one." The voice agreed. "Panic in human space." By midday, strange readings flooded human sensors. Ships. Many ships. They appeared at the edge of the system without warning, their technology far beyond anything humans possessed. Defense networks powered up. Alarms rang across orbital stations. On the farm, Eli was helping his father fix a broken fence when the sky darkened. He looked up. Shapes moved above the clouds, long, sharp shadows blocking the sun. The air hummed with energy. "What in the world?" his father murmured. Eli's stomach dropped. "They're here," he thought, "for her." News channels exploded with panic. Some believed it was an invasion. Others called for immediate defense. But the ships did not attack. They waited. The silent approach, one small craft detached from the fleet and descended toward the planet. It did not land in a city. It did not land near military bases. It landed by a single barn. The ground trembled. Dust rose into the air. Animals cried out in fear. Eli stood frozen. The barn doors creaked open as pressure waves rolled through the field. Then the craft opened. Figures stepped out, tall, armored, powerful. Their armor shimmered with symbols that shifted like living metal. Weapons were visible, but none were raised. They formed a line, then another, and another. 100 warriors stood around the barn, perfectly still. Eli's parents rushed outside, fear on their faces. Neighbors watched from afar. Drones hovered in the sky, recording everything. One warrior stepped forward. His armor was marked differently, older, heavier. He removed his helmet. His face was alien, sharp and strong, eyes glowing faintly. He looked at Eli. Then he knelt. A gasp spread across the field. "We come not as conquerors," the warrior said in slow, careful English, "but as those who owe a debt." Eli could barely breathe. "You sheltered our wounded," the warrior continued. "You gave warmth when death was near. By our law, such an act binds us." He placed his hand over his chest. "You saved the life of our future queen." Silence fell. Human officials arrived soon after, tense and armed but unsure what to do. The warriors did not move. Vaelthra stood and faced the humans. "We claim no land," he said. "We demand no tribute. We seek only to honor what was given." He turned back to Eli. "From this day," Vaelthra said, "this child and his bloodline are under our protection. Any who bring them harm will answer to us." Eli's legs shook. "I just gave her a blanket," he said quietly. The commander's eyes softened. "Among your people," he said, "kindness may be small. Among ours it is rare. That makes it powerful." Across the stars the galaxy watched. Records spread fast. Civilizations that feared the warrior species now paused. They saw the images, a child, a blanket. 100 warriors kneeling in the dirt. Humanity was judged, not by fleets, not by weapons, but by a single choice made in the cold. A promise made before leaving. Vaelthra placed a device near the barn. "A beacon," he said. "If you ever call, we will hear." The fleet lifted off, returning to the sky like silent gods. Eli watched them go, heart pounding. Life slowly returned to normal, but nothing was the same. Because somewhere among the stars, warriors spoke of humans not as weak creatures, but as a people worth standing beside. Life did not return to normal. It only pretended to. On the surface, the farm looked the same. Crops grew, animals grazed. The barn still creaked in the wind, but everyone knew the truth. The galaxy had noticed Earth. Eli Carter became a name whispered across human space, not as a hero with weapons, not as a soldier, but as the boy who was protected by warriors. Human leaders argued every day. Some wanted to hide Eli, others wanted to use the Alliance. Most were simply afraid. The alien warriors had left no troops behind, only a promise and a beacon. That scared people more than an army would have. The ones who watched closely, not all eyes looked with respect. In the dark regions between empires lived the Karn Collective, a powerful alliance of species that ruled through fear and control. They had watched the warrior fleet kneel before a human child. They did not understand it. To the Karn, kindness was weakness. Mercy was a lie told before betrayal. "This changes the balance," one of their leaders said. "If humans gain allies like them, others will follow." They made a decision: test the humans. The first strike, it began quietly. A small human mining station near the edge of space lost contact. No explosion, no distress call, just silence. Human patrol ships arrived hours later. The station was empty. No bodies, no damage. Just marks burned into the walls, symbols of the Karn Collective. The message was clear: we can reach you. Fear spread quickly. Human fleets mobilized, but they were not ready for war. Their technology was improving, but it still lagged behind the great powers. And the warriors, they had made no move. Some humans began to doubt. They won't come, people said. Why would they fight for us? Others looked toward Eli's farm and waited. A boy in the middle, Eli, felt the change before anyone told him. He was older now, taller, stronger, but still the same inside. He helped his parents. He fed the animals. He tried not to think about the stars, but the beacon sat near the barn, silent and dark. One evening, Eli stood alone in the field, staring at it. "Did I do the right thing?" he whispered. He remembered the girl's eyes, the cold, the fear. Yes, he thought, he had. A transport arrived the next day. Human officials stepped out, faces tight with worry. "The Karn are pushing," one of them said to Eli's parents. "They want proof, proof that the warriors truly stand with us." They looked at Eli. "We don't want to ask this," the official said carefully, "but if there was ever a time to call them." Eli looked at the beacon. It had been given freely, not as a weapon, not as a tool of control, but as a promise. That night another station fell. Eli made his choice. The call. Eli stood by the barn as the sun set. The sky burned red and gold. Wind moved through the grass. He placed his hand on the beacon. It warmed under his touch. "I don't want war," Eli said softly, "but people are being taken. We're scared." The beacon pulsed. "If you meant what you said," Eli continued, voice steady, "we could use you now." The light flared bright, then went dark. Silence followed. For a long moment nothing happened. Then the stars moved. The answer ships tore through space without warning. Not hundreds, thousands. They arrived between Karn-controlled territory and human space, forming a wall of metal and light. At the center flew a ship larger than any before it. On its bridge stood Queen Aristal, the girl Eli had saved. She was no longer wounded. Her armor shone with authority. The old blanket was woven into a sash across her armor, protected beneath clear crystal. "Transmit to all channels," she commanded. Her image appeared across the galaxy. "We come not for conquest," she said. "We come for a debt unpaid." Her gaze hardened. "The Karn Collective has taken human lives. That violates our law, it violates our honor." Behind her, fleets aligned, weapons powered, not firing but ready. "To the Karn," she continued, "you will release all captives, you will withdraw from human space. Or you will answer to us." The Karn leaders laughed at first, then they saw the numbers, then they remembered the kneeling warriors. Fear replaced arrogance. Not a war, but a lesson. The Karn attempted one strike, a show of force. The response was immediate. Warrior ships moved with perfect precision, disabling engines, shields, and weapons without destroying a single vessel. Karn fleets were frozen in space, helpless but alive. Across captured stations, doors opened. Humans were freed. No cities burned. No planets fell. It was not a massacre, it was a message. Strength controlled, power guided by honor. Human commanders watched in disbelief. "They could have wiped them out," one whispered. "They chose not to," another replied. A meeting on the farm. Days later, a familiar ship descended by the barn. Queen Aristal stepped out, flanked by guards who remained at a distance. She walked alone toward Eli. Eli felt nervous, but he did not step back. "You kept your word," Eli said. "You gave us a reason to," the queen replied. She knelt before him not as a warrior but as a ruler. "My people asked why we would risk so much for a species still finding its place," she said. "I showed them your blanket." Eli blinked. "They understood," she continued, "not because of its material, but because of what it meant." She stood. "Humanity does not rule through fear," she said, "but through choice. That makes you dangerous to tyrants." She offered Eli a small, glowing token. "A mark of standing," she said. "Wherever our banners fly, humans will not stand alone." The galaxy learns news spread faster than fear ever had. Humans were no longer seen as weak. They were seen as trusted. Trade routes opened. Alliances formed. Enemies hesitated. All because a boy had once chosen kindness over safety. Eli watched the stars that night, knowing something had changed forever. And deep in space, others were already asking the same question. If this is what humans are like, what will they become? The farm still stood on the edge of human space, quiet and strong, just like it always had been. The barn had been repaired many times, but its shape never changed. The fields were wider now. The house had new walls and better machines, but one thing remained untouched: the beacon. It still rested near the barn, silent, warm, and waiting. Eli Carter was no longer a boy. He had grown into a young man with steady hands and calm eyes. He had been offered many paths, positions in government, military ranks, even offers to leave the planet and live among the stars. He refused them all. "I belong here," he always said. People did not argue, because the galaxy respected that answer. A changed humanity. Humanity was no longer alone at the bottom of the galactic ladder. They had not become rulers. They had not become conquerors. They became something rarer, trusted. Human diplomats were welcomed where others were feared. Human traders traveled safely under banners that once meant danger. Human colonies grew without walls, protected not by threat but by reputation. Stories spread, not about fleets or battles, but about a child who gave warmth to a dying stranger. Other species listened. Some laughed, some learned. The ones who never forgot, among the warrior people, the story became law. Children were taught it before they learned combat. Elders spoke of it with respect. The image of the blanket, simple, worn, human, was carved into stone and metal. Queen Aristal ruled with strength and patience. She never forgot the cold of that night, nor the warmth that saved her. When asked why humans were given such honor, she answered simply, "They saw a person where others would have seen a problem." The final test. Peace lasted a long time, but the galaxy was large, and peace was never permanent. From beyond known space came something new, not an empire, not an army, a force that consumed stars. Worlds went dark without warning. Fleets vanished. Signals stopped mid-sentence. Even the warriors were cautious. This enemy did not speak. It did not threaten. It simply erased. The Council of Allied Species gathered. Fear returned to rooms that had not known it for years. Weapons would not be enough. Numbers would not be enough. They needed unity. They needed trust. All eyes turned toward humanity. A simple answer: Eli stood in the same field where everything had begun. The sky above him was filled with ships from dozens of species, not in formation, not in dominance, in cooperation. Queen Aristal stood beside him, her armor bearing both warrior symbols and human markings. "The enemy does not understand mercy," she said. "It cannot be reasoned with." Eli nodded. "Then we don't fight it alone," he replied. The plan was not complex. It was human. Instead of attacking, the Allied fleets evacuated threatened systems together. Humans coordinated supply lines. Warrior ships shielded the weak. Smaller species carried messages and warnings. Where the enemy expected panic, it found order. Where it expected fear, it found calm. And where it reached for isolated worlds, there were none. The turning point: the enemy reached a dead system, empty, silent, prepared. Allied fleets waited, not to destroy, but to contain. The warriors formed the outer ring. Humans held the center, coordinating, adapting, changing plans in real time. Other species followed human commands without hesitation. Why? Because humans listened, because humans adapted, because humans cared who survived. The enemy pushed. It slowed. Then, for the first time, it stopped. The force that consumed stars did not understand something critical. It did not understand sacrifice for others. It did not understand standing still so someone else could move. It did not understand humanity. The containment held. Slowly, carefully, the threat was sealed beyond known space, not destroyed, but no longer able to harm. After the silence, the galaxy exhaled. Losses were mourned, names were remembered, but civilization endured. At the final council, leaders spoke of strategies, fleets, and defenses. Queen Aristal spoke last. "This victory," she said, "did not begin here. It began on a cold night on a quiet farm." She gestured to Eli. "He did not ask who she was," the queen said. "He did not ask what she could offer. He gave warmth, and warmth became alliance." The council agreed on one thing without debate. Humanity would never stand alone again. The blanket returned one evening, long after the fleets had gone. Eli stood by the barn once more. A familiar ship landed softly. Queen Aristal stepped out, holding something carefully. The blanket. It was no longer worn. It had been repaired, strengthened, woven with alien materials that shimmered softly. But its shape was the same. Its feeling was the same. Home. "I believe this belongs with you," she said. Eli accepted it with quiet hands. "I never thought it would matter so much," he said. "It mattered because you never thought it would," the queen replied. She looked at the barn, the fields, the stars. "One day," she said, "the galaxy will forget fleets. It will forget wars, but it will remember this place." A legacy written in choice. Years later, children from many worlds visited the farm. They stood where Eli once stood. They heard the story, not of power, not of domination, but of choice. Humanity did not rise because it was the strongest. Humanity rose because when the universe tested it, it chose to care, and the galaxy answered.